Hey everyone. Thank you so much for coming today. You have heard me talk about my good friend Bryan Burnett for about a year, and I've talked about how amazing he is, his eye for detail, and all of the incredible work he's done. And we're so glad and lucky to have him here with us today. The 54-page multidisciplinary forensic paper has come out, and probably most of you have seen it and read it. So we wanted to get Bryan on to talk about it a little bit. Welcome, Bryan. Thank you for coming.
No, thank you for having me.
Of course. Let's get started could you tell us a little bit about, you've had a few different careers. I know that you're an award-winning sculptor. You worked in marine biology. You've had this incredible life. Could you tell us a little more about how you got into crime scene reconstruction?
It really is an incredible story. But I started out in science at San Diego State University, and I got a bachelor in zoology in 1968. I stayed on at San Diego State for a master's degree, and my master's thesis was defining the circulatory system of barnacles.
Oh, wow.
They actually do
Interesting.
have circulatory
Wow.
systems.
I didn't know that. So that's very interesting.
And during the time, I was really fascinated with scanning electron microscopy.
Mm.
And because of my work on crustacea, barnacles are crustaceans, I had an in at the Scripps Institution of Oceanography. And I got in, my GPA was terrible. But I made friends with two professors there, Dr. Robert Hessler and Bill Newman, and they were in biological oceanography and marine biology.
Mm.
And I was in. They took me on as a graduate student, and that's where I pursued my interest in scanning electron microscopy. And then I got into because Bob Hessler was a deep sea ecologist, deep sea benthic, meaning bottom ecologist. I got involved into that. I was very much interested in protozoa, and
Mm.
I developed a technique for seeing protozoa associated with the benthos, with the bottom of the oceans.
Mm.
And from there, I became actually an ecologist at Scripps. I got a master's degree at Scripps in 1975. I stayed on at Scripps and ran the deep sea benthic program for Bob Hessler until 1980. And the real high point of that, if you could say that, was I was actually chief scientist on a number of cruises on the
Oh,
Thomas Washington oceanographic vessel,
oh,
and
Oh,
that
very
was out in the
cool.
cool.
central North Pacific, where I was in charge of what was called box coring.
Mm.
And then I had an out with Bob Hessler, and I decided to leave. I joined up with a Gerald Abraham on the upper campus at UCSD, and because I was developing my skills in scanning electron microscopy, I got a job with Dr. Abraham, and I did sort of the ecology of particles in lung tissue, like
Ah,
asbestos,
yeah.
silica, and all that. And along with that technology, at the time I was there, was the ability to detect elemental compositions of uh, of objects that you're seeing in the microscope, and that
Yeah.
actually was developed at Scripps Institution of Oceanography. But that was
Interesting.
developed, and I developed the technique to identify particles associated with lungs. So I was doing then that lung tissue that is diseased is
Mhm.
called pneumoconiosis.
Okay.
And I also was I do all kinds of stuff here. I also got very much involved in computer programming, and so I wrote programs to not only quantify the particles of the cases I worked on, but also to archive all the cases. So from the very beginning with Dr. Abraham, every case I worked on was archived. And when I finally had to give up that system, I had over 2,000 cases that were all archived.
Oh my gosh.
So if you look at my CV, you will see there are a number of publications where I'm involved in the medical aspect of pneumoconiosis. And from there, with scanning electron microscopy and what's called and energy dispersive X-ray spectroscopy, that's the elemental analysis, or EDS. I got involved in gunshot residue.
Right. So those sort of match up. They're tiny little
particles.
Same technology.
Yeah.
And when I was with Dr. Abraham, I also set up my own laboratory.
Oh, okay.
So for 30 some years, I had my own laboratory, which I'm sitting in right now. You can see that some of my equipment is back there. What remains, I've gotten rid of most of it because I'm kind of retired, I think.
I don't think you
supposed
know what
to be something like that.
But with gunshot residue, I really, in order to understand the reports of gunshot residue that are mainly associated with criminal cases involving shooting, of course.
Yeah.
I had to start getting involved into crime scene reconstruction.
Gotcha.
And I linked up with a Joseph Orantes, who used to be the head of the crime lab at the San Diego Police Department, learned the aspects of crime scene reconstruction, which then evolved into bloodstain analysis, bloodstain pattern analysis, BPA it's called.
Yeah.
And from there, I did a large number of, I've had about 400, 500 cases of crime scene reconstruction. And that's usually homicide. Sometimes it's discharge of a firearm kind of thing where nobody was injured, or there was an injury, and some aspects of that kind of a case, which of course brings me to Cobain. And generally, you gave me the discovery, as we call it, all the evidence that you had. And I must admit that what's a real game changer for you, Michelle, was getting the autopsy report, which if you look at the preprint that's on ResearchGate, you will see that the autopsy report, even though it's abbreviated, there's missing 2 pages are missing.
Yeah.
It is a game changer for the Cobain case, and also the finding of the complete firearms. Which is important.
And when you and I first started talking, I mean, you didn't know really anything about Nirvana or Kurt Cobain. Of course, you're a scientist, and you're just going like, okay, well, I need to look at it. You went in with no preconceived notions about who Kurt was, what may have happened to him. And I think I talked to you a few days after sending you all the information. What was the first thing? Do you remember where you go, okay, something's really wrong here? There's something very wrong with the official narrative.
Oh, actually, it's the second police report. I forgot what it was called. What was it called, Michelle? They didn't, usually in crime scene, the discovery, they call all the discovery bunched together the murder book.
Oh, it's called Notebook 1.
Yeah.
Is that what you're talking about?
Yes.
Notebook 1 and Notebook 2. Well, going through that, I saw what had happened. There was a privacy issue here, and that is a red flag right there. Yeah. Because that immediately restricts this, especially since I realized how high profile this was.
Yeah.
And and the Seattle Police Department was between a rock and a hard place in terms of approaching this case, because they couldn't bring in other people like myself
Mm-hmm.
to look at the discovery. And then it went to the appellate court, which I'm sure Mark Larson had told you was really a red flag. When
Yes.
they say hands off totally, it was hands off totally. That's just, I couldn't do anything. But I have no idea why the Seattle PD, what was it, in 2014,
Mm-hmm.
released 37 images. And if they hadn't done that, we wouldn't be here.
Yeah. I bet they regret that an awful lot.
Well, because originally they weren't planning. I think they were planning on just letting them decay. They weren't planning on even developing them. They got thrown in a box, and that was that. They said that they don't develop photos on suicides, and that was it. So when Detective Siesinski re-examined the case in 2014, he didn't want to see it just go to waste, I guess. So he went ahead and developed them. And I think that was their way. I think releasing those was their way of saying, see, look, there's nothing wrong here. I guess not realizing what they were releasing, what it showed. But
yeah, and then there was the Seattle reporter, what's his name again?
The guy who took the photos that he's passed away now, right?
Behind the name escapes me right now.
Yes.
Reese.
Yes, Reese. Yes.
Reese.
Yeah.
And I initially, I saw, I looked out all the 37 images. I found the original source, which was great because the resolution of those images exceeded the resolution of the photographs themselves. So there was a lot to work with just in those photographs, as you well know. Then comes Tom Reese into that. I was totally unaware of his participation in this. So there were two images, which didn't make sense to me. And it took a lot of looking to figure out just what those were. And then to try to the copyright so we can use them in the publication was a task. And the Seattle newspaper really didn't say where those images went, where those photographs went, and it went to that museum, the technical museum,
right?
Who then owned the photographs of Reese's taking. And I initially had thought that he'd only had an opportunity to take a couple photographs, but he was in that tree and moved around a lot. And there was one release of a number of the photographs that he took, and it took a while to find them on the internet, where it actually shows the covered body being removed from the greenhouse. And of course, that had no forensic information at all. But the one photograph that Reese apparently controlled until his death, which was 2017, I think it was. It was 2017, and he apparently maintained the copyright on that.
Good for him.
And that's the one where you can see Kurt's hair, right?
That's the right side of his body.
Okay.
The one that was the headline.
I think I saw the one with his hair, and it was so blurred.
Yeah, it's tough.
There were two of the 37 that showed part of Cobain's body, and they were just totally unusable.
Yeah.
I don't know why, but they were. But I still wish for that Reese photograph where it shows the right side of Cobain's body that I had a higher resolution image of that. But there was enough there to see important features, which I guess we'll talk about a little bit later.
Yeah.
And
oh, sorry. I was just going to say the one at the top of his head, I believe, is a still that they pulled from a video that was taken that day.
Oh,
instead of just an actual photograph, which I think is
There
why
was a
it's so
video
blurry.
taken?
Yeah,
I haven't
there's.
seen.
I'll find the clips and we can get them to you so you can
It's a
see them.
little late now, you know.
Well, well, at this point, I think it's just for curiosity's sake, so you can say you saw them.
There's nothing very closer or more interesting than that, is there in them, Rachel?
No,
No, I
no,
didn't think
no.
so.
Well,
It's
that because of the privacy issue, they did not show Cobain's face.
Right. Yeah.
yeah,
And for blood stain analysis, that it was a really important image to see. And of
yeah,
course, the Seattle PD has those photographs,
Yeah.
and which they of course will not release because of the privacy.
Yep.
And your attorney Mark Larson certainly encountered that, and I'm sure he
Sure did.
tried
Yeah.
to get it, but at least he was successful in getting the firearms.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
and that was really helpful too. And that was not anything anyone had seen before. So that was
yeah,
amazing.
Well, yeah, what was really important in that was the image of the shotgun on
Mm.
the floor. And then Mike Gregory did the same thing, and that was where we figured out that his shotgun, his Remington M11 shotgun, was with the cuts compensator
Mm-hmm.
on the end of its barrel, was the same length as the Cobain shotgun,
yeah,
and
Yep.
that was so important to figure out whether or not in the suicide scenario that Cobain could reach the
Yep.
trigger
hmm
and then stop. And there
Yep.
was a lot of discussion over the last 30 years whether or not Cobain could have reached
Yep.
the shotgun. And that is a story in itself, because we went through a couple months trying to figure it out until we got the original firearms
Yep.
report.
Mhm.
And that's what's so amazing about this case compared to all the ones I've had before, is all of us managed to put together a scenario, a crime scene scenario on such limited discovery.
Yeah.
yeah,
Every bit that we find, there wasn't any overshoot here, no pun intended.
Yeah.
To work on, say, well, no, this image is just a little bit better than that one. What we had was what was there.
yeah,
And
Yeah.
again, I have to emphasize that this would have all been for naught if the the Seattle Police Department had taken images of low resolution.
Oh,
Mhm.
yes. Okay.
So we had those high resolution images.
yeah,
And
Yep.
talking about images, what is really incredible about this is that there was a digital camera, which no one has ever reported, at the scene.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And there were two of Apple's what was the name?
The quick take, is that what was
Quick
it?
Take, yeah, Quick Take 100.
Mm.
And I was in a crime lab with Joseph Orantes, the former head of the San Diego Police Department crime lab. I was actually doing digital imaging kinds of stuff because of scanning electron microscopy, which is one of the
Yeah.
first instruments that used digital imaging.
Yeah.
Mm.
And I remember when Apple released those cameras, the Quick Take 100,
Yeah.
that when I saw what the resolution was, I said, no way. This will not be useful for anybody, because you couldn't enlarge
Yeah.
at all,
Mm.
because what you see is what you got in those 640 by 480 pixels. But one of the interesting things about the Quick Take is that because it's a digital camera, at the time, up until 2014, when those digital images were printed out for copying, it was on a dye sub printer, and I had one at one time.
Oh wow.
And the dye sub printer is really interesting in that in the ink transfer to the paper, it doesn't define the pixels. It blurs one pixel into another.
Oh,
So essentially then you have a high resolution image of a low resolution
right.
Picture.
and
Yeah.
it looks high resolution.
That's amazing.
And yeah, so there's one point there where that fellow sent you that image of supposedly blood on the planter
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
that was behind thing, and I don't know what the defect was, but there was some defect in the image which made
Yeah.
it look like there was blood
Yeah.
on the side of the planter.
Yeah.
And of course, once there was another image in part of the series that were released of 37, which shows that particular area, and you can see that there's no blood there.
Yeah.
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 Well,
So,
sorry, Brian, go ahead.
oh,
No, I mean, speaking of blood, I think like, when you notice the blood on Kurt's jeans at the bottom of his jeans, I mean, that was like,
Yeah.
for Mark Larson, for all of us, I think we were like, holy shit, this is a huge, huge deal. Was that something that was surprising to you? I mean, again, you did so much with so little photos and so little evidence.
I wasn't expecting that when I first looked at those images. But the images that were released by the Seattle PD were very dark.
Yeah.
Mm.
There was something either wrong with the lighting or with the actual camera itself. And there were two cameras
Yeah.
involved.
Yeah.
And on those a Hasselblack, I forgot the anyway, both of them were high, and there was a Japanese one which it was a really weird name which I had never
Mm.
seen before, but both of them took very high resolution images. And the Hasselblack,
I think it's Hasselblack.
Hasselblack, is it?
Yeah.
I feel like it. Yeah.
That sounds. Yeah.
Yeah.
I lost my train of thought here. Oh, I know. I was looking at that. Well, anyway, the images were dark,
Yeah.
and so obviously I had to manipulate the images in order to make them the right lighting for it. And
Yeah.
you can do that. You can do that with Photoshop fairly easily. And
Yeah.
I've worked with Photoshop since the beginning, so I pretty much know how to work it. And so just out of course, for all the images, I lightened them. And that's
Mm.
when I saw, hey, what is that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
On the left lower leg and
Yeah.
the shoe. And then using some of the techniques in Photoshop, I enhanced that. And because of the extraordinary resolution
Mm.
that these images were, you could see a definite bloodstain pattern.
Yeah.
The question is, how in the world did that get there?
Yeah.
And the only way it could have gotten there is that somebody with bloodied hands handled the lower jeans.
Yeah.
And there was a transfer. And Dr. Gabriel Rotter affirmed that. We had a lot of interaction. And Gabriel Rotter is an Italian bloodstain pattern expert as well.
Mm.
And so I had a lot of interaction with Gabriel, and we determined what that was. And then of course there was a shotgun with Detective, you know his name,
Szynski.
Szynski.
Yeah.
Yep.
and how amazing. And the resolution wasn't too red hot on those images, but how amazing. But it was enough. How
Yeah.
amazing! How amazing it was that he had 5 positions where he shows the one position where you see the dorsal side trigger down of the shotgun, and you see the cuts compensator on there with the vents on it,
Mhm.
and then there's another image where he has it the other way. So you have the ventral side with a trigger at the same side,
Yep.
and the cuts compensator. The grooves were full of blood.
Yeah.
And of course, with Gabriel, we were saying, well, is that blood?
Nope. Did he freeze for you?
Yep.
The
Oh,
apparent blood further on down the barrel. And so it was clean all the way from the cuts compensator, which I interpreted to mean, and I don't know whether Gabriel agreed with me. I think he did agree with me that the barrel had been cleaned after it. Now we have to discuss how in the world did the barrel of the shotgun get bloodied?
right.
And there's a phenomenon known as back-spatter, which I've worked a lot with.
Mm-hmm.
And what happens is when a firearm is discharged intraorally, or for that matter, close range to a head, especially a shotgun,
Mm-hmm.
but almost any gun will do this, there's what's called backspatter. In other words, along with the bullet that enters the cranium, there's gas that also enters. And the amount of gas depends on where the shotgun muzzle is and when it discharges. So there is gas injected into Cobain's head, and then because it was penetrating, meaning that there was no exit wounds.
Right.
So the entrance wound was the exit wound.
Right.
And along with the gases that exit his mouth was blood, a substantial amount of blood.
Right.
Yeah.
It coated the entire barrel of the shotgun, but only the dorsal part. In other words, with the trigger down.
Right.
So that indicates where the shotgun was when it discharged.
Yep.
When Cobain was found, the ventral side was up.
Right.
Yep. Trigger up.
And so that means, and Mike Gregory affirmed this, that means that the shotgun was moved, was rotated around 180 degrees.
Yep.
Yeah.
So that indicates that perhaps Cobain did not press the trigger.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
you're looking at those photos too, and you're talking about all this backspatter, and then you see Kurt's hand in that photo. And you must have been looking at that going, okay, something really doesn't make sense here, because I could eat off that hand.
Makes sense.
Right? It's so clean. So you would expect to see a lot more on Kurt's hand, right? If it had been around the gun when it went off.
Yeah, there's so much here on so little discovery. The two photographs, the one by the reporter for the Seattle Times, Reese, and then of course the 37 images. Not all of them were any good, just a couple of them were. But then there's that one image that the Seattle PD released, which shows Kurt's left arm, dorsal aspect. There's another point to that too, and his thumb. That was that on the shotgun? I've forgotten that was.
That's the hand that was wrapped around the shotgun.
Yeah, it was. Yeah. I've forgotten whether it was wrapped around, but that was one thing that Gabriel, Roder, and I were really confused about. So even with both of our experiences, there is always something new about this. So even though I've been doing this so long, there's always something new with every case practically.
Yeah.
And there was the rim of blood around his thumb on his left hand.
Yeah.
And we didn't know whether that was subcutaneous as a result of 3 days of gripping and putrefying. He was beginning stage of putrefaction, or whether that was actually a blood stain, and that it if it was a blood stain, then his hand was artificially applied to the barrel. There was some blood remaining on the barrel after I believe it had been cleaned, and so you had that little rim. Now, why do we say that was blood stain? That's where Cataldo Ruffino comes in. ME, also in Italy. I love Italy for some reason.
No. Who wouldn't? Yes.
Right?
The best
Oh,
food.
great.
Yes.
There's a story to that also, but I won't get into that one.
That's for the next podcast.
Right.
But anyway, Dr. Ruffino said, no, that's blood, because he of course had done thousands of autopsies.
Mhm.
And so that's where, little things come in and then they suddenly become meaningful. So, then you have, of course, the left hand, sorry, this part of it, which was gripping the barrel, there was back-spatter. That hand, the dorsal part of his hand, should have had blood on it from back-spatter.
Yep.
It did not. It was totally clean, which means
Yep.
his hand was either thoroughly cleaned or it wasn't in
Where
the
they would think it was.
the back-spatter.
Yeah.
And where do we go from here? So since we're on the left arm, let's go back to the left arm. Now on his arm, there was a puncture mark
Yes.
on that,
Mhm.
which had been focused on previously by others who were uneducated as to the meaning of that.
Mhm.
But anytime I see something like that, which I hadn't seen before, I have to think, and it's not normal. I know that, that isn't normal, whatever
Yeah.
that is.
Yeah.
Because there's a circle of discoloration around the puncture mark on his arm.
Yep.
Mm.
And I said, well, if that's a syringe, how did that happen? So I went on the internet and looked at all the different types of syringes and realized that was a syringe that had a collar on it.
Mm.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like the collar is a plastic thing where you can change the needles on
Yeah.
on certain syringes, and the syringes are reusable usually. In fact, I have some glass ones that are obviously reusable, but it allows you to change the needles for different sizes of needles. So Kurt was injected with a collared syringe, and his one of the things that I digress a little bit. One of the things that was not known was Kurt was ambidextrous.
Yes. Yep.
Mm. Yes.
And so his preferred, when he was injecting with heroin, and we can't deny that because he had a track on his right arm, his preferred injection was on his right arm, not on his left arm.
Yeah.
And so the injection could have not been self done.
Right.
Yeah.
And of course, then we get into Pietro. I can't pronounce his last name. I've forgotten.
Is he Italian as well?
Yeah, well,